3 Nights of Hell by Linda W. This haunting was written by Linda W. and published in the Hamilton Spectator on July 29, 1995. It was later added to the Big Book of Canadian Ghost Stories by John Robert Colombo. Linda was a private duty nurse. She was hired to take care of an elderly woman who lived in an old house by herself. Part of her job duties was to spend the night with the old woman. When Linda first arrived at the house, she felt sick to her stomach. At the time, she didn't think of ghosts. Who would? Ghosts aren't real, right? The old woman wasn't the kindest person, but a job was a job. As Linda was getting ready for bed that first night, the old woman told her to put a chair under each window in the front of the house and leave the windows open an inch. The old woman said that by morning, all the chairs would be moved and the windows would be closed. Later that night, strange things happened. The water tap turned on by itself. The doorbell rang, but nobody was there. Doors would open by themselves. Linda thought that since it was an old house, it had problems, but she didn't believe it was a ghost yet. In the middle of the night, she heard footsteps and heavy breathing like moans and sighs coming up the stairs. The hall lights that she had left on were now off. When she got up and turned the hall lights back on, she looked around. Nothing was there. How strange. One thought Linda had was the old lady was trying to scare her. When she went downstairs to check on her, though, the old lady was sound asleep. It couldn't have been her. In the morning, all the chairs were moved and the windows closed, just as the old woman predicted. When Linda got home, she called the agency and told them she didn't want to go back to that old house. She found out that nobody wanted to go there, and it was she who had to go back. The second night was no different than the first. In the middle of the night, Linda heard heavy breathing, moaning, and footsteps up the stairs, and the hall light going off. At this point, she was becoming irritated. She said, "Geez, this is really stupid." So she turned on the light and went to the bathroom. While she sat in there, she heard something coming up the stairs. When she looked around, she didn't see anything or anyone. Linda said, all of a sudden, downstairs, one of those big brass serving trays crashed to the floor and started to spin around like a coin. I went down and checked on the old woman. She was sound asleep. Linda sat up for the rest of the night. The third night was 100 times worse. Doorbells were ringing every 5 minutes. The grandfather clock was bonging. Doors were opening, and the tap came on by itself. Those hauntings were minor compared to the events that happened next. When she turned the light on in her room, she saw that it was covered in moths. Thousands of moths filled the ceiling. The closet door was open a crack, so she thought they came out of the closet. So she went to bed anyway. After sleeping for a while, Linda woke up to a Charlie horse in her leg. As the Charlie horse settled down, she heard scratching coming from a 3-drawer dresser. The moths were gone, and now she thought a mouse was in the room. She kicked the dresser, thinking it would scare the mouse away. But suddenly, a drawer flew out at her. The bedroom light went out, and she heard "ooh" with footsteps rushing up the stairs. Then something even more frightening happened. Linda said, I grabbed my clothes and ran into the bathroom. The door was open, and I was sitting there when this presence, just charged at me. She told the ghost, "Don't worry, I'm leaving," and that she wouldn't be back for another night. After this ordeal, she felt heavy breathing on the back of her neck as she walked down the stairs. Again, the old lady was sound asleep. How could she sleep through such madness? Linda went into the kitchen and called her mom. Though it was 4 a.m., she wanted to leave immediately, but her mom couldn't get her until daylight came. While waiting, Linda sat with her back to a wall and piled a bunch of books around to throw at the ghost. There were footsteps pacing up and down the living room floor, heavy breathing, and the grandfather clock was going crazy. Then a couch lifted and turned around. This was the final straw. When she got home, Linda called the job agency and told them she would never go back to that old house ever again.